Thank you very much. It's great to be here, and yeah, it's encouraging to come to another church and to see what you're all doing. And we had a great time with Ho and his family last night, sharing together. Yeah. So yeah, it's just really good to be here, and we want to tell a bit about our church and then ourselves, and hopefully that's an encouragement to you. So I'll let Evelyn go first.
Okay, so we are from a intentional Christian community, international Christian community. We have communities all over the world, mostly Pennsylvania and New York. We have a community in Korea. We have one in Austria, Germany, England, Australia. And we try to live like the early Christians. So the first Christians, as in Acts 2 and 4, where we try to share, share everything. Nobody has their own personal bank account, and nobody gets a salary, but we all work together. We have our own school for our children and a business, and we just try to love each other and show the world that it's possible for people to live in peace and to love each other as Jesus taught us to. To become a member of the community is a lifetime commitment, and it's one that you don't make lightly, because it should last for the rest of your life. And so even though I grew up in the community, my parents were members, I still went out and I actually did some volunteer work in India, and I studied in Germany for a while, and hadn't made a decision whether God was calling me to live in the community or not, because I knew it was a big decision. But since we're talking about September 11th, everybody who was alive or an adult at that time will remember exactly where they were on that day when the planes hit the World Trade Center. And that was exactly half my life ago. I'm 42 now, and I was 21 years ago. And I had just come back from Germany, and I was kind of, in turmoil as to what I was going to do the rest of my life. And I felt that I had done things in my life that were selfish and that weren't right, and wasn't sure how to set those right. And when September 11th happened, one of my best friends who I'd grown up with joined the military, and there were a lot of people my age who were joining the military to go and fight in Afghanistan and fight terrorism. And suddenly I was struck, what am I going to do with my life? I don't believe in war as the answer to the problems in the world. So if I'm not going to go and join the military and fight against terrorism through violence, what am I going to do with my life? I need to be just as willing to give up my life for the good of others as my friend who was joining the military at that time. So I just suddenly felt convicted to, after September 11th, we felt that suddenly life was very fragile. You could just lose your life at any moment. And what was I going to show for it in God's kingdom? If I was suddenly faced with standing before God right now, even as a 21-year-old. So that's what convinced me to just give everything to, become a member of the community and to follow Jesus. So I gave up my money, and I gave up the rest of my education. I was studying in Germany, and I just had to let go of that. And in return, I've been amazingly blessed with my family, and living in a community of about 300 people now, where we care for each other. I trust the people who are looking after my children during the day. So I've worked in many different places around the community, in the kitchen and in our business, which is making furniture and toys for schools and nurseries. I've worked in our publishing house, but right now I have the privilege of looking after my uncle who's dying of cancer. And although that's difficult and sad, he's 73, his wife has dementia, and so she's not really able, I mean, she tries to look after him, but doesn't always manage so well, and she needs, bearing up a lot of the time. So my joy right now in our family is living next to my uncle who's, only has probably a few more weeks to live, to be a family for them and to, look after them. We learn a tremendous amount from them as well as what we are able to give to them. So that's something that in community we're able to do, help each other out. In our same house, we have a family who has a brand new baby. So they bring the baby in and my uncle and aunt hold the baby. And it's just this amazing circle of life where you have the beginning and the end kind of coming together and everything in between. And, that's just a really beautiful way to live. And that's actually how it should be for everybody. So thank you for welcoming us today. I'm especially happy that Oliver and Valerie June are here today. We're very good friends, have gone back many years. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I can tell a little bit of my story and a bit of what I do at the community, so you can, get a feeling for the daily life in our community. So I also grew up most of my childhood in our community. My parents were in Philadelphia, and when I was 4 years old, 1985, they came to one of our communities in New York State. We have a number of communities in New York State as well, and became members. And so I grew up there in the Hudson Valley, in one of our communities. And then similar to Evelyn, after high school, we were encouraged to go out and do some volunteer work in another country, get some other experience. And I had the privilege of going to Israel and working in Nazareth at a hospital there, just doing maintenance work, grounds work. It's a Christian mission hospital that's been going for more than 100 years. So that was an awesome experience, and kind of broadened my horizons. Anyway, similar to Evelyn, I came back to the community to seek more about what I was called, what I should be doing with my life. And I also then became a member when I was sure that's what God wanted me to do, and was living in a community, again, in New York State, with Evelyn in the youth group when we were both 25. And then I became sure that Evelyn was the right person that I should get married to. And we corresponded and got to know each other, and with a lot of help from the church as well and guidance. And we were married. We then lived in our communities in England and did a 3 months mission in Ireland, and then 1 year in Australia. We have one community in New South Wales, Australia, back to England, back to New York State, now Pennsylvania. So we've moved around quite a bit in our communities. I do IT work, so that's part of the reason we've moved sometimes. But so yeah, we have breakfast in our family units in the community. The singles in our community have a family that are kind of assigned to if they don't have their parents on the community, so they can go to that family whenever they want. They're kind of part of that family. And so we have some singles who come to our breakfasts during the week. And then the kids go off to school at 7:30. I walk with them because it's all on the same, it's a bit like a little village, our houses and our school and our dining hall, and our workshop where we make the wooden toys and furniture. So I can walk the kids to school, and I walk to my workplace in the workshop. I do an hour's work screwing things together in the workshop, and then I go to my desk. Then we go to lunch, and most of the kids come to lunch, just the younger ones don't. So that's nice to be all together. Yeah, in the communal dining room most days of the week. And then we go home for a bit and then back to work, and the kids have afternoon activities in the school. And then we all get back together at home at 5. And often then in the evening, like 7 o'clock or so, once the younger kids are in bed, there's often a meeting again or some kind of activity. So that's a bit of a kind of like daily schedule. And yeah, it's what we're trying to do is just show God's love, to show the unity that we should have among us as Christians, to show, to try to be a little bit of God's kingdom on this earth, which of course only comes through the Holy Spirit. And we're not perfect, but we're trying to be that light on the hill, just like all of you and your church here, with all the activities you're doing, which are awesome. And yeah, it's just really encouraging to come and see what you're doing, broaden our horizons, and hopefully, hearing about our church and our community is an encouragement to you. Should we show a couple pictures, or? That's good.
So, just hearing this, so obviously this is, I'm sure it's God's plan to have them over here, and so I got to know about Bruderhof community last year, and still I'm learning about them, and I'm just joyful to meet like this Christian friend, Christian brothers and sisters, and how they are committing their entire life to Christ and things like that, and sharing their testimonies first time too, and got me to think that I think especially Evelyn, she came to join this community because of her sense of brokenness in this world. I think that's a starting point, how we really come to be more serious about Jesus. Like, it can be something about what's happening around the world, or it can be something in my life, in my heart, right? Brokenness, my sinfulness, my dirtiness, and there's something wrong about myself. There's something wrong about this world, and we got to do something about it. We need a savior. We need Redeemer, and I think that's the kind of door way to be more serious about Jesus and committing our life, and that's how I do understand. Majority of us are here because of that, like God's saving grace, and because you felt something, it's not right, and you found the answer, and for me personally too, that's how even though I may not, may be walking on the same, different pathways, but I gave up my job and I left my home, and I came all the way to this country just because of this one name, Jesus. I just want to follow him, things like that. So, but one of the things that I was really impressed by their commitments for the Lord is through their communal life. So, that I think one of the reasons why this community really appealed to me is because that's what I feel, and I believe many of us feel, that we need a stronger faith community. Given the fact that what's going on around the world today, and we need a stronger base platform, not only for us, for our children too. We need this home. We need this strong faith community, so that we can raise our children in the way God intended, and to see this community, and there's so much that we can learn what it means and how we build Christian community. And so that's one thing, if you can share, like what is it like to build like intentional God-pleasing community? What's the what's the the most blessings, or what's the most biggest struggles that you may have, and something that we can learn from you. And one of the things I learned is don't gossip.
Yeah.
Okay, don't gossip. Don't say a bad word behind one's back. Prayer is okay, but but something like this, that'd be great.
Well, I can try. Yeah, I mean, Ho said that the first part of what I was going to say. Our community, the first Bruderhof community started about 100 years ago in Germany, and at that first community, it was kind of chaotic. There weren't a lot of traditions yet, and there was a lot of disagreement in those first years about how things should be done and so on. It was a bit chaotic, and there was a lot of complaining then at one point, a couple of years into it. And it mostly was around finances, which maybe isn't surprising, but and the founder had a lot of faith. He wanted just to go out and just do things, even if the money didn't seem to be there, and so on and so forth. And a lot of the other folks who were there at that community didn't want him to do that. They wanted, a solid financial basis and all this. So there was a lot of complaining, and then a lot of the people left the community, and they just took whatever they wanted from the community at that point. Even I think, just about everything. And there's only 7 people left, but 7 adults anyway. And at that point, the founder said, okay, one of the main things we need is love for each other, and love for each other means that we don't gossip and negative talk. But the other thing I would say is that to keep working on unity. Jesus prayed for unity among his disciples as he and the Father are one. And we keep working on that, and it's not easy, but that we really are united, and united as possible in what we believe and what we feel is important, and how we do things, if we can, as much as we can. And just to keep working on that, I think is really important, and will build that community and that witness to the world, I think.
Well, the no gossiping rule is actually builds community on a fundamental level, just between the people involved. So we actually have this rule hung up in most of our workplaces and our houses. It says, there is no law but love, and love to each other means joy, having joy in each other. So there are many ways of having joy in each other and having a good time, having a rummage sale, or having, a barbecue or whatever, where we interact and we get to know each other. And then when you notice that somebody is doing or saying something that you feel is not in accord with following Jesus, then you can go in humility, feeling like it could be me, or I hope I'm wrong, but I noticed that you said or you did such and such. And when you have the courage to go to somebody quietly, after the fact and share with them, it's amazing how that builds unity between you as brothers and sisters. And you come closer together, you build a greater understanding for each other, and you have, we can help each other along that path that we all want to follow, which is not an easy way. It's a difficult way, but that's what I appreciate about living in a faith community, is that I can be helped because I'm not very strong, and I need help. But then I can also turn around and help others, and I have to take that courage. It takes courage to have somebody come to you and speak to you, but it also takes courage to go out and say, I noticed whatever, this isn't quite right. How can we work on it so that we can follow Jesus more closely?
There was a photojournalist who came to our community a couple of years ago, and it was the 100-year anniversary of the founding of our community. So we said, hey, do you have any projects I can do for you? Of course, he's a professional, so we had to pay him. But we said, okay, great. Come to our communities and take a whole bunch of photos. Yeah, so we have this first picture is in one of our cemeteries. So we, like your church here, we have also our own cemetery. So there we are. So this is a couple of years ago, but there's our younger 2 kids. We're just picking them up from the nursery. So on this website, there's lots of different stories of different people who joined our communities over the years, from the beginning until now. So this man was the founder, and this guy's in our Australian community. So yeah, it's just lots of nice pictures. We have some communities in cities. This is the original community in Germany, the first one.
We have some small communities of like 20 people in cities, and they have students, and they do outreach, and then we have more larger communities.
one of the most important rules in our community is that the men have to wash the dishes after lunch.
And everyone has to help with cleanup after dinner.
This is a special prayer, a blessing for a new little baby. All right. Fun times also. Right. Another little baby.
Most of our big communities have a lot of nature, lakes and streams and woods. So we spend a lot of time climbing trees.
Well, I'm just trying to get to one that shows a meeting or a communal meal. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, talking. I don't want to use their whole working.
But you can all go to this website.
Oh,
Another
there's
way
us again. You can't see us very well, but we're watching. There's a tractor on the far side. It's making hay there. Again, it's one of our larger communities where we have so we have, what is it, like 15 large communities about that are around 250 people on each of the large communities, like a little village. But then we have smaller communities like in cities that are just a house or two. Sorry, I've seen most of these already. So. There's a grandpa with some little kids. So anyway, maybe that gives a little idea, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just thought at least a few pictures would be nice. And it's great to be here.
Thank you so much.